Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Carrie Copp Adams of massagebycarrie.com, and today's tarot reading is going to be all about your divine masculine, what he's thinking, feeling, what your situation is, and whether or not he'll take some steps to come back to you. So traditionally for twins in separation, but you don't need to be a twin flame to resonate. You could read this for a karmic partner, a soul flame or soulmate relationship, or just that person that you're curious about in your life. So before I get started, if you fancy yourself a twin flame or you want to know more about the spiritual journey, abundance, energetic ascension, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me get seen and heard. We have a lot of videos here for you on what's going on in the masculine feminine collective. There are going to be some guided meditations coming up infused with Reiki, as well as a bunch of other goodies around the full moon, new moon, and the start of the month. Also, if you like my reading style, I have a bunch of readings available on my website. That's in the description box below. So click that link anytime and we'll get those answers for you for your specific questions in your specific relationship. So without any further ado, starting off this reading right off the bat, we have the Nine of Cups here in this deck. Such an amazing card. This is for the thinking space. We have the Seven of Wands in reverse. 7, the indicator of spiritual aims. Look at this. Okay. And we have the Five of Cups in reverse. So right off the bat, I can see that your divine masculine is really working on getting over his sorrow. So there's been something about your connection and perhaps you're in separation here that has caused him great pain in the past. It caused him to go within, have kind of a dark night of a soul, and act independently for a while. But I do see here that the reason for doing this, if this is a new situation to you, is so that when your divine masculine came back or emerged, or is going to emerge, he will emerge as your wish fulfillment, the person that is the answer to all of your prayers, basically. And we see this trope a lot with the masculine. The masculine's desire innately is to serve and protect, but often in distorted masculine energy, we also see this desire to save. And it's very interesting because at this time in the collective, the feminine is working on becoming a woman that's undoing all of that feminine wounding throughout centuries and doesn't need to be saved, but wants a partner to coexist and cooperate through life with. So that's really interesting in the thinking space. We also have Judgment here on the bottom, and I do feel like he's thinking about how he's wronged you in some way, or I guess coming to terms with the nature of this connection. And, when we see this number here, number 20, breaks down to a 2. So there's kind of a reckoning or a justice in this relationship before you guys can really become a partnership that needs to be worked through. And that's what the divine masculine is thinking in a more empowered way. I want to dive more into that situation here. So what was that situation that caused him to kind of go within, that caused him some great pain? So we have Ace of Cups, indicator of new love. Oh, look at this, Ace of Pentacles. New start in money and prosperity. I do see the Tower reversed here on the bottom and it came up again. And we have the Four of Swords. Okay, so yeah. Whatever happened, and I really enjoy that the divine masculine is being quite vague about this. This is what he wants. He wants to be able to master his emotions. He wants to be able to come back to you, having his finances and his stability and structure in a folder so that he can be this white knight. But it's kind of like he's dug his own grave here because he's had to work really ridiculously hard and has been very hard on himself to do that. And I think I'm getting I'm getting that he's done that because he doesn't want to hurt you anymore. He doesn't want to upset you, offend you. He wants to be in this place where he can be absolutely 100% receptive and tap into that feminine, nurturing, allowing, receptive energy so that whatever you need, you don't have to ask for. He will just intuitively know. He wants to be like a mind reader for you. This is so interesting. And then, of course, the tower on the bottom here is an indication that he's had his come to Jesus moment. He's coming out of that dark night of the soul energy and is ready to be a renewed person. He doesn't feel victimized anymore. So these two cards together, actually, Judgment and the Tower, are very empowering for the Divine Masculine at the moment. And even though he kind of feels like a kicked horse to a certain degree, he also recognizes that it's really interesting. He doesn't need to be the boss. Like, there's no boss in this relationship. He's trying to work so that he's stable on his own, but that he is more cooperative in a pack environment. And this could transcend a lot of different things in conjunction with his family, in work, and in relationships. So let's take a look at the feeling space, and then we'll pull some messages from him to you. Yep. Here we go. We have the Six of Swords here. There's kind of a transformative quality with this card. We have, yep. Wow, this is amazing. We have the Ace of Swords. Again, like so many new beginnings. And this is, of course, how he feels about you. So he wants to have a new conversation. And then we have the High Priestess in reverse. So we can see that the Divine Masculine is not quite embedded in his intuition all the time. There's some resistance to that. He doesn't trust himself, is what I'm trying to say. And I feel like this goes back to that question of mastery. He just doesn't feel like he's had enough in a folder, and this is creating some kind of self-esteem problem for him. But as we see with the Six of Swords, the worst is behind him. He's really starting to become a person that looks at life as the glass is half full, or through rose-colored glasses. He's starting to live more in that gratitude mindset and abundance mindset. And I think that this is preempting this new thinking, basically. He wants to come forward and, in conjunction with the Ace of Cups and the Ace of Pentacles, which we saw before, offer you a new start in how you communicate with each other and how you look at the world. I love this infinity symbol here. He's really seeing the full spectrum of emotion, even that scares him sometimes, and he's not quite sure how much he should live in that duality. It's a question of duality right now that the Divine Masculine is trying to get right. And look, we have Justice in reverse on the bottom here. A big sign of duality. How long do I exist in my masculine principle, and how long do I exist in my feminine principle? And when you look at the I Ching and some of the more Eastern philosophies about light and dark, good and evil, masculine, feminine, it's really getting that balance has a lot to do with what's going on in the stars right now. So, for example, we're in Venus in retrograde until like sometime in February. Venus in retrograde is, number one, retrograde's moving backwards in the sign of love. So we're reassessing and reevaluating our partnerships. Same thing with Mercury retrograde. Anytime you see a retrograde, you're going backwards. And anytime you're going backwards, it's a naturally feminine time to pause, reflect, wait, go within. So if you're somebody that's, now this is getting a little into it, but in theory, if you're resisting that and you want to move forward during times of that energy, it's why they say in Mercury retrograde, don't go traveling, don't make commitments, don't make legal commitments, because you're bound to be working against the natural energies of the universe. So the key to this feminine intuition is to know what kind of time you're in. And we have many different cycles, especially as women, that we can pull from our own cycles. Where are you in terms of your internal cycle? Where are you in your age cycle? Where are you in your ambition and progressive cycle? Is it a time to move forward? Is it a time to hold back? Where are the seasons? Is it a time of year that's like now, cold, and we should be going inward and working on that inner fire? Or is it summer where you are? And it's an outward expression of these things. So we have to really, there are so many spirals that kind of lead into each other. And I think that's really the meaning here of this infinity symbol, is that when you really get that balance down, you start to experience life as the eternal thing that it is meant to be, constantly unfolding, change as the only constant, never the same, never boring, and never frustrating, because you're always operating within the flow of life. We have soulmate here from the Romance Angels Oracle deck. Let's see. 2 more messages from our oracle here. We have, it is safe for you to love. I've seen this before very recently. I saw calling in your soulmate here on the bottom. Oh, and we have you're deserving of love. So again, the divine masculine, he's recognizing that when he yields and waits and reflects for things, he gains that personal sovereignty. He gets to take back his authenticity. He gets to enjoy life more. He gets to love himself more, and that, obviously gives you more fodder for loving other people, and not just you, but the world at large. So this is really tapping into mission here as well. And this question of safety, I think, is one of the things that he's turned on to new thinking about. Insecurity in any way is a question of safety and fear. And depending on how this person was raised, I'm kind of getting the sense that it wasn't a very secure childhood. And we need to be patient with this divine masculine, because this person essentially kind of had to raise themselves and had to teach himself the things that sometimes the parental figure or guardian in other situations would just be able to guide the person through freely. And that often makes us question, especially at a young age, like what we're looking at. So the divine masculine is now realizing that he doesn't have to fear the universe or the world. He's the one that creates his own safety. And you do that by creating a supportive lifestyle around what you want out of life. So if you're an artist, then that means your finances are in a folder and you're in a good neighborhood, or you're at least in a place where you don't have to fear, somebody breaking in at night. You're surrounded by neighbors or friends or allies or coworkers that you can trust. You don't have to necessarily keep your cards close to your chest, so you can be a little bit more emotionally available and vulnerable. And I also really feel like with the Ace of Swords, that's the thing that this person wants to tell you. This message is coming through, is that they didn't really mean to keep their cards close to their chest. It's just how they were raised or how they created themselves to be, because they just didn't know who they could trust when. And this comes down to reading energy, I think, and experiencing a lot of the world. So that's really interesting. And then on the bottom, we have romantic feelings. Your feelings are worth exploring. So there's just something about you that this person just put on a pedestal. They just felt like you were a beautiful, very out of reach, out of their league type person. And they felt like they had to be your... they know that they're your energetic match, but they had to the outside had to match the in. They had to be kind of like a Cal in Titanic. That's what this is giving me of. And yet with the heart of Leonardo DiCaprio's character. And they didn't quite know how to do that. They had a lot of misconceptions about what it means to be rich, or what it means to and also resistance to dressing well if they came from humble roots, because they didn't want to betray their upbringing or the people in that town and then come back and have those people say, oh, well, you've changed, you don't fit in here anymore. But they recognize that in their heart, that's actually what they want. They want to elevate themselves, and that there's no shame in, and no reason why they can't keep the core character of themselves, but just change the look or the lifestyle to match the direction they're going. So I have a couple messages here from your person. The first one says, "We will be together again." Yep, they're definitely thinking about that. We have "I got spooked." And we have, this card comes up a lot. "Something is still missing for me and I'm trying to figure out what that is." So let's dive into that. Here it is. "I don't know if I can meet your expectations." I feel like, okay, so this goes twofold here. The thing that happened for those of you that got pushed into separation, I feel like the Divine Masculine is trying to take responsibility for that which is his fault. Maybe some harsh words were said. Maybe he pushed you away thinking that, he could just bury you under, do what he normally did, just bury it and forget about it. And I think this person really feels very energetically connected. And it was not something that even in the 3D physical world that if you pushed away, he could ignore in the 5D energetic realm. And this is, for me, why this person got spooked. So they know in their heart that you guys are going to be together again, but something is still missing, and they're trying to figure out exactly what that is. And I feel like they've put these expectations on themselves, thinking that those were the expectations, going back to that card here, romantic feelings, that you want, that you expect them to save you, or you expect them to be a white knight or dress like a savior or act, in a completely different capacity. And again, this goes back to that insecurity and just wanting to be more and do more and elevate themselves. And it's very hard to do, by the way, when you're all alone and you're not supported by family. Like, let's say if you're here from another country, or you're not with anybody, you're not splitting rent with somebody, but be that a partner or a roommate of some sort. So this person just feels like their growth is too slow. And you, by contrast, are just speeding ahead at light speed. And I think they're just trying to figure out how to maximize their potential so that you don't outgrow them. That's like the biggest thing I'm hearing right now. Let me look more into their desires here. So we have the Star from the Tarot of Sexual Magic here, which I've actually never drawn before. Super interesting. And we have Endurance. We have Communication, and we have Fear, and this is from Vessel. So yeah, the Divine Masculine, I feel like this fear and communication kind of go together, actually. So I'm going to put them here together. But I just kind of feel like the thing that's missing for your Divine Masculine is, they're trying to figure out what it takes to keep going. So they understand when they drop into that feminine principle that you can't just work hard forever and not deplete your resources, energetically or otherwise. And so there's this great fear that if they stop working, they won't create abundance. It's this idea that like force yields results, which in some cases are true. But again, conversely, looking at that duality with the feminine principle that we see with the Empress just calls abundance to her. She just kind of sits still and lets the world come to her. And I think that that's kind of what happens when we drop into that void zone and we go within and we're still and silent and we ask the universe or ourselves these tough questions. Where am I going? How do I implement this now? How am I feeling? Aside from what I know that I have to do, what is it that I want to do? Things like that. It fuels our creativity and gives us more to draw from, so that when we do go out, we're that much more supported and we feel that much more rejuvenated. Obviously, they want to communicate with you. They want to communicate with this. But I love the fact that like there's so many eyes here. I just kind of feel like, again, that insecurity is they feel like all eyes are on them. Maybe they're the sole breadwinner of the family. Maybe they're big on social media and they feel like they have to keep up with the Joneses or what their audience wants or something. they're just trying to figure out how to balance these two sides of them. And of course, the whole point of this here is to be able to give you this cup, because this actually in this deck means the stars, it means attraction, and it means the magic of union. So the divine masculine is missing the link, which we kind of already figured out before, of how to bridge masculine and feminine so that he can still attract things and be magnetic, but not be necessarily obligated to them, like, let's say, a 9-to-5 that eats up all of his time, and still find serenity and peace with that lifestyle that he's chosen. It's the idea that of living a romantic lifestyle and taking advantage of opportunities when they come to you instead of creating them. So he's really trying to drop more into that feminine principle and have fun. But he's a little nervous that this is a real big deviation in the thinking that this person was raised with. He's not quite sure if he buys into the magic of the wellness and new age community that says, you know, you're attracting what you are and you should clear your energetic blockages. He thinks to himself some days, like, screw this. Like, honestly, the only way anybody gets anywhere is to make money. And that is something that the masculine as a whole is really moving out of in this lifetime. We live lives now that are more supportive of self-care and preventative medicine and de-stressing as a whole in general around the globe. However, in certain places, especially like the United States, that's hard. It's hard to do. It's not easy depending on where you're starting from and what you're doing now to always know how to cultivate that kind of a life if you want it, depending on the environment that you find yourself in and your beliefs. But I do see the divine masculine wanting that happy home. I see them wanting security in that way. I do see them wanting to keep up with the Joneses, and that kind of makes them anxious and nervous, and they have to take deep rests as a result. But this person has a lot of ambition, and they feel a lot of pressure. However, they're also slightly narcissistic to a certain extent, I feel like, and they actually really enjoy working under pressure or keeping up with the Joneses, so there's an undoing of feeling guilty for who you are in the shedding of negative beliefs here as well. So let's see if your person's going to come forward and then get some guidance here as to what you can do. Okay, I've seen these before. Here we go. Oh my gosh, we have the Two of Cups. Look at that. For some of you, this is going to happen very soon. That's a happy union card. We have the 10 of Wands here. Interesting. And we also have the 6 of Cups in reverse. So the divine masculine, I think he's nearly there, to be honest. We also have the 10 of Cups on the bottom here in reverse. So I feel like to a certain extent, there's been a lot of work done. He's not quite there yet. There's something about the past that's really holding him back, and I really feel like it's rooted in guilt. This card especially here suggests that there was some heavy conflict. Your person's almost like, is it possible to forgive and forget? How could you love me after all I've done? That's that type of energy. But I do see that your person very heavily wants union, and because we have so many 2s this month, the sign of partnerships, and such an amplification of duality and balance and, you know, all that juicy stuff, that by the time Venus conjunct Mars happens in like February, I'm sure that this person will reach out to you and at least want to talk about what happened in the past. That's kind of the energy that I see. When this person returns, they're not going to offer you this rose and say, hey, can we start again in such explicit terms. It's more likely going to be like, hey, can we mend fences? Can we mend bridges? Can we mend this gap? And talk about what's happened here. And I think that this is really breaking ground in a lot of ways because, again, like I said before, previously the divine masculine just wanted to shove it under the rug and forget about it. So Spirit has really been working on him and saying, look, this is not something that you want to forget. This is a relationship that can teach you things about yourself and encourage such amazing growth, but it's intense. And if you don't want to go through this again, get to know this person. And stop stepping on their toes. So your person's very likely to reach out and say, I miss you. I've been thinking about you a lot. You were always with me this entire time, and yet I have some answers for you as to why I stayed away so long. And I accept culpability in our misunderstandings if there were misunderstandings, and I'm, ready to be a person that isn't pushing people away or creating conflict where there isn't any, just so I can prove to myself that I'm strong, and because you had broken down all these emotional barriers in me, I'm ready to become the partner that's willing to always tell you how I'm feeling so that we can have harmony instead of conflict. Okay, so really quickly, just to finish up, I have a few messages here from Spirit. We have bring love into this situation. This is from the Moonology deck here. New moon in Aquarius. Are we having... Well, I guess the sun goes into Aquarius at the end of this month. So some airy energy here, again, in conjunction with that Ace of Swords coming in. We have it is safe and beautiful to express my sensuality, number 36. That's a 9. There's a 9 here as well. From the... This is the moon deck. 2 moons here. And then we have the card No. How interesting. So what I glean from this is how you can best help your divine masculine at this time. This is all about creating healthy boundaries. So if you are on social media or in life, showing the divine masculine that you are completely 100% accepting of who you are, and you live a life that leans into that. You might dance around the living room or have like a nerdy hobby, and you're completely 100% secure in that. He's going to be able to drop into that feminine principle and do the same thing and be more of himself without all of the eyes of judgment that he perceives looking in on him. But the flip side of this, if you want to talk about duality, is that you have to have healthy boundaries, which means that you're not compromising what you want to do for all of the other eyes, or because society says so, or because other people are asking you to do things for them. And this is the lesson of the 6 this year. The shadow side of the 6 is the martyr. I have a 6 life path, so I can completely 100% understand and tell you that this has been my life's battle. I have things that I want to do, many things that I want to do, and yet I feel so strongly and have such empathy for other people in my life that are struggling. And so I always tend to stop what I'm doing to try to help them. But here's the thing about that. Everybody's working on their own time, and even if you have all the answers, even if you're living the right life and people actually come to you and they say, please help me, it might not be the right time for them to, have those lessons or reassert themselves or realign. We know so very little about divine timing and why these things happen when. I just think it's a miracle that we're here, and if you are a twin or you feel like you've met a very cosmic person in your life, that you get the chance to be that person's reflection and see the mirror of you reflected in them. because that means somebody's really looking out for you. Instead of having to fall in the hole to learn these lessons on your own, you get this great cosmic teacher. But there's also a responsibility there to be that cosmic teacher for the other person. And you're going to do so unconsciously and unwittingly. I think that's the nature of these kind of relationships. But the more control, the more love, the more care, the more self-care, TLC, that we can put into it over the energetic connection and within the 3D, the more bountiful and joyous, excuse me, it's going to become. So we have to bring love into the situation for this person. Whatever we do, let's do it joyfully and in such a lovely spirit, because that will really encourage that person to be themselves. But at the same time, we have to learn when to say, no, I need to take this time for myself, or nope, that's out of my scope of practice, or no, this would take away from other endeavors that I need to do, have to do, want to do, and then, have a balance, keep that in the balance. That's very important for this connection, so that you don't have codependency, you don't have enmeshment, you don't have all of the other problems that could potentially come when you are in union, and then you're dealing with 2 different schedules, 2 different desires, 2 different families, 2 different lifestyles, what have you. So that's the lesson everybody is learning at this time. And when you find that you're at home in your body and that you're in peace with your spirit, you'll get what's on the bottom of this deck: a divinely guided, joyful life without any question of whether you're on the right path or what should I do next, because it's divinely guided and inspired, and we're all listening. So that is what I have for you today. I really hope you enjoyed this reading. Let me know in the comments below if it resonated. If you have any questions, please leave them below as well. I'd love to pull you a card and answer something specifically for you. Again, I've got readings on my website, and other than that, you can like and subscribe. It would really help me out, and I'll see you the next time that I do a reading, probably next week.